you gonna use? Did you get?
Yeah, I got Pro Seal. One and the same, but
One and the same. All right, so we're live? We are live. We're here in the penthouse. Hunter McCamey is back. What you been up to?
you know, same old, same old. Just waiting for today. You know, waiting for a big show. We got a couple cool topics, and we got a brand new one. I'm excited to show.
Yeah, absolutely. We have waited a little bit. You know, we fell on the 4th of July weekend, so we decided to let everybody celebrate that, get back into the swing of things before we came back for the decorative do's and don'ts. And I don't know if we have a ton of don'ts. I'm sure we'll figure out some more don'ts as we go through the do's, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but what are we going to do
So
tonight?
we're going to be talking about all things decals. We're going to be showing, you know, obviously the various ones we have between custom text decals and multi-colors, right? Several colors to choose from. Fish decals. Of course, we got college decals. You name it, we got it, right?
We are getting close to football season.
Correct. Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully. So we'll show you guys how to install decals first of all.
Yep.
Definitely a lot of do's there.
Yes.
And a couple don'ts that we can throw in.
For
a couple
sure.
tips and tricks on how to install them and not get those fish eyes or get the lifting of the decals on the edges, you know, stuff like that. So we're also going to be talking about ink writing with ink on your rod blank, which is pretty cool. We haven't really touched on that before.
We have never done that, and we do have the silver marker here. This is one of those extra fine points. We sell these. So we're going to show you some really ugly handwriting from me, and we're going to show you a little bit of cooler handwriting from some of the art guys in the back, because we had to recruit Taylor and Hoffma here. You know, we're all one big happy family in the Thunderdome for the marketing department, as we call it. And they're the guys that do a lot of the drawings on the boxes, you know. They probably do, I don't know, they do more than half, I would say. So if you guys request a drawing on a box, that is Guffey, Taylor, Hoffma, any one of those guys, they bring it up to us in the marketing department, we draw on it, or the guys in shipping, guys and girls in shipping down there, if they doodle something on the box there, that's who does that. So it's kind of a mixed bag, you know. Yeah. And so we did have them write on a couple rod blanks, doodle a little bit. I'm going to show you how to do that, couple little tips and tricks on that. But yeah, and then you are going to do a feather inlay.
Yeah, which is another thing we have yet to do on our Mudhole Live series, feather inlays, which a lot of you guys asked for. Super easy technique to do, and you can get really creative. Yep. We're going to show some examples of that too. So,
absolutely. You want to get this thing kicked off?
Let's do it.
I think, do we have a new intro maybe? Slightly different? Slightly? Let's hit it.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
All right, well that's
We're
it.
back.
Yeah, we're back. Hey, so we got some updated footage there. I like that.
That was pretty cool.
Got rid of the basement and made sure to slide into the penthouse there. So, all right, well, I think you guys have waited long enough. Let's get down to it. What are we going to do first?
So let's dive into decals.
Okay.
You want to show a couple of the ones we have. So, you know, across the board, we have a lot of custom text decals. We let you guys choose basically from a wide array of fonts, and of course we have different colors too. We've got our, what do you got in your hand there? Is that white?
This is white.
White,
that's
black.
We've got
blue.
kind of a mudhole blue there, and we've got a metallic red. So, and that blue is also kind of a little metallic-y. The red is even more so, and we do have a chrome and a silver. So
awesome.
Those are kind of our custom text decals. You know, they went through, put some names to them, put some different fonts. So those are ones that you can order with those different fonts.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat if you want to add that, custom touch to it.
Yeah. Of course, I mentioned the fish decals. We have dolphin, mahi-mahi, snook, you name it, bluegill, anything in between.
Yeah.
So you can accent that rod, especially if it's a panfish rod or if you're going for bonefish on the flats and the keys.
Yep. And these are slightly different. These are cut vinyl. So these are cut vinyl that have then a transfer top on it. Transfer, I don't know exactly what you call this. So this is a decal that you'll peel like this. So you can see that kind of as a transfer. So you pull this off and stick that down on the rod.
Right. So these are essentially just peel and stick decals, right?
Yep.
Cool. And then, of course, I mentioned the college decals as well. We also offer graphic decals, which do have a setup fee, but if you have a custom logo,
Yep.
if you got a logo for your rod company, or if anything for that matter,
Yep.
you could send that logo in. There's a setup fee and a minimum quantity to order, but we can make those decals for you.
Yeah, which that's awesome, because I know a lot of guys out there, whether you have a guide business or whether you have a custom rod company or you just have a cool logo for anything, honestly, we can turn that into a decal that then you can personalize all your rod builds with that custom decal. So that's pretty cool.
Cool. Well, let's get into it. You want to start from the beginning?
Yep.
Say you got your decal in.
Yes.
What would be the next step?
So I'm going to use this hand wrapper here just as kind of a stand. So what I would do is make sure you have...
Get this out of the way for you real quick, too.
Oh yeah, get your feathers out of there.
We'll show that in a little bit.
Okay, perfect. So this is kind of just a quick and easy tutorial on how to put these together. It's the Scotch tape method that I use. I know a lot of guys out there use it, but I just want to show it here real quick. So we are going to cut a decal out. I'm actually going to use the Terry Belger Custom Rod Co. here.
So you guys, when you get these decals in, whether it's a sheet of decals that's, up to 8 or 10, or if it's an individual decal, most of the time you're going to see that there's extra film on the side or sides, and that's mainly for to actually handle and hold these decals, because you don't ever really want to try not to touch any of the text if you can. You really want to try to just touch the side of the film and not the lettering itself.
So that's as wide as that decal actually comes. So it's pretty wide. You can see the text in right there, and then it actually is pretty wide there. So you can try to handle it out here. You get that? Cool. So you handle it out here and then cut it. And then that way you're not putting fingerprints all over this. If you do put some fingerprints on there, I actually just try to use almost like a microfiber cloth that you would clean your sunglasses with, or something soft. You don't want to scratch it, and you also don't want to accidentally use acetone or something that is going to take the printing off of this.
Right.
So be careful with this. You can actually just take it and wipe it with a lint-free cloth or like a microfiber cloth, something like that you would clean expensive sunglasses with. You can do that with this. So now, what I'm going to do is, Nick, do you think maybe out here is probably the best so you can see it? All right. Let me set this back here. All right, so I've got the text decal here, and of course, do as I say, not as I do, because I'm handling this all over here. So I've got the decal out here, and I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to take a strip of just regular old Scotch tape, right? So we've got the Scotch tape, and I am actually going to take and touch the Scotch tape to something before I stick that decal. So that removes just a little bit of adhesive, because remember, there's a couple different types of Scotch tape. Some are completely clear. Some have a little bit of frosting to them. This one actually is a little bit frosted. And if you get the one that is completely clear, it seems like it's much more aggressive.
Right.
So depending on if you're printing decals at home, if you buy them from us, or if you buy them from a third party, just be careful when you use Scotch tape. and that you're not using something that is as sticky as duct tape,
Right.
really. So, like I said, we're going to put this down. I'm actually going to stick it to something first, just the table, and then I'm going to line it up and stick it right on top of the decal there. So now that I have that stuck, you'll see I'll pull that up, and that is right there on it. So, sorry, I think we're playing a little game of cat and mouse there with the camera. My bad, Jay. So
I saw your piece of tape was much longer than a decal, right?
Yep.
So you just
I'm going to go back down here on the table.
Cool.
Okay. So yeah, you can actually see there I've got the handles on either side, if you will. So now we've got that decal on the Scotch tape. And then what I'm going to do is I'll just leave it right out there, and I'm going to pull another small piece of Scotch tape, right? And I'm going to touch it to the back of the decal, and then I'm going to peel. I'm going to peel this off. Sorry, I missed it there. So there you go. See that? Now I've got the backing stuck to this piece of Scotch tape. And then now I'm going to take it up here and we're going to transfer it to the rod. So you've got the rod here and the hand wrapper. Depending on how you want it, oriented, you can turn it like this and put it down. You can turn it the other way, put it down. Maybe it depends on what hand you reel with or however you want to do that. But I am just going to lay that here so we can see it with the camera. So touch it there. And then I work from the middle of the decal. You can see that. We start laying it down. Work from the middle of the decal up and out. And then also down like this. Okay? And then I'll typically also take the burnishing tool and get these edges really, really good. And then with these long kind of handles out here, they're just very easy to pull up. And then what we're going to do is we'll just peel it from there, just like this. Peel that right off. And there's your decal.
Perfect.
There it is. So with that decal, we have said this before when it comes to finish. There's a lot of questions on how to do this. I know guys sometimes run into an issue with the edges lifting on decals. There's one of two things. You can use Pro Seal color preserver and go over the decal. Maybe do 2 coats depending on, how you... this is one of those that I would demo on a scrap rod blank first. So maybe do 1 coat, maybe do 2 coats. And what it does is that will just help seal the edges, okay? I have done it with success. I've also not used the Pro Seal with success as well. But with the don't part of the do's and don'ts, do not, if you do your decal separately from your rod, do not take and mix finish immediately and go right to the decal. When you do that, that's what, if you've ever heard me refer to as hot finish, that is when the finish is, it's just starting to go through its chemical reaction, it's not curing yet, and it's almost like it turns into like an adhesive remover, somewhat. So you don't want to go from just right mixing it right onto a decal. If you're going to do the rod and you're going to do the decal all in one swoop, do all your thread work first, all your finish on your thread work, I should say, and then come back and do the decal last.
Yeah.
Or if you do all of your guide wraps and maybe decorative thread work, putting the finish over it, and you want to do the decal separate or you have multiple decals and things like that, mix your finish, make sure it gets clear. I'll put it in one of the aluminum tins and then set it aside for 10, 15 minutes, come back and then put the finish over that. And I think you guys will find that you'll have less edges lifting.
Yeah, that's a great point. One tip I would give is if you do have trouble getting the air bubbles out of your decal, especially towards the middle section, is to, once you apply your decal, do not remove the tape but put a single layer of thread all across that decal.
Sure.
So what that does is that thread can, essentially compress that decal way more than you can with a burnishing tool, right?
Right.
So that's going to help all of that air push out from the underside of the decal, and then let it set for 10, 15 minutes, come back, remove your thread, remove the tape, you're good to go.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, especially, we've used that on abalone shell and some other stuff to actually just use that thread as like a compression type thing. So yeah, that's a great tip there. Good boy. Cool. All right, so now that we're doing that, do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? We've got Gary there, how to apply a decal over a wrap. We are going to get to that, and I actually have kind of a cooking show version of we put a decal over a wrap. Gary, what we do is you'll do a thread wrap, you'll put finish, you'll put a decal over that, and then you'll put finish back over that decal. So I'll show that, and then Don Lapp, what finish to apply on the decal and process, as well as common locations to put the decal. Don, you'll notice we will put a decal just above either the foregrip or the little cone here that we use. Put one in this area, or it ends up in the split grip for us a lot as well. So you use the exact same finish, Pro Coat, Threadmaster, either one of those we've got here on hand that we use a lot. Both of those we put it down. So that's great over a decal. Just keep in mind, like I said, wait a little bit, or do part of the rod and then come back. So.
Yep. What else we got? Let's do Dave from Facebook. Can you put decals on cork? So yeah, I would probably. Have you done this before?
Decals on cork?
Yeah.
No.
So,
but
I would imagine you put down a layer of finish probably first.
Right. I was going to say we've done it for the ice rods.
So decals more than likely are not going to stick to the cork very well.
Yep. There's too many voids in it.
Yeah.
You get bubbles and all that.
Yeah, it's just going to be uneven and kind of messy. I would recommend putting just a really thin coat of maybe even a thin varnish, or just your standard, Pro Coat Threadmaster finish.
Yep.
Then come back in, put that epoxy on top of the finish, and then obviously you can put more finish over top of that.
Absolutely.
So the benefit of that also is you get a little bit different effect, right? You get the more floating effect rather than the decal just pressed against the cork.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to show here in a minute too. So yeah, that is a great point. All right, so now we've got a decal. Let's talk about what we can also put a decal over, because I know we've talked a little bit about that. I'm actually going to show the abalone jig skin that we get from American Tackle.
Okay.
And this is kind of an easy, I don't know, it's an easy trick, I guess you'd call it, to be able to put a little bit of a abalone finish on a rod and stick a decal over it. So what I'm going to do here is, on these jig skins, they come in 2 sizes?
I think so.
2 sizes, multiple colors. You can see there's a couple different finishes here. And you can see they are glossy. They're reflecting the light, kind of have that holographic kind of vibe to them. They come in a couple different widths. You can see that there. So what we're going to do is we are going to put a little bit of abalone here in front of this. So take a sharp piece of scissors. Sharp pair of scissors. Did I say piece of scissors?
You did, but I was going to let it roll.
Yeah, you're going to let it roll? It's been 3 weeks, right, since the show, so you're going to cut me a break. I see. All right.
Aaron's got a pretty important question, if I can just ask this real quick. He says...
is that Aaron?
Aaron Perry.
Cool.
Are you guys hiring Will Work for components?
I don't know if I'd say that out loud, Aaron.
I hope you're ready to work, because we will put you to work, Aaron. We've got a lot going on.
We have been busy around here. All right, so poor Aaron. Show up tomorrow, bring you a lunch pail, and you're good to go. All right, so I am going to see if it'll just barely get under the Terry Belger there. So we have cut a small piece of this abalone jig skin. Now, keep in mind there is a seam on the back of this guy. So just like when you're putting on these wind grips, you can see we've got the back side of the seam here on the underside. So try to utilize, placement there so that your seam isn't on the top side. Now, I'm going to show it right here because there is a couple ways that you can do these. Because they react to heat so well, if you were to do it in like the butt section of a rod, you could actually take it and dip it in hot water and it'll make that compress.
Right.
You can also take it and pour hot water over this. It will make it shrink and compress. Mom wouldn't let us have a burner up here in the penthouse, so we are going to use a heat gun that we didn't tell her about. So did she take the heat gun? What did you guys do with the heat gun? What?
Is it over there?
No. Oh, I see it. Come on, Jay, you're hiding it from us, bud. All right. As I said before, we're going to use a heat gun. Now, you got to be careful with this. As we've mentioned before, use the lowest settings and go low and slow, please, because you can burn this up. So, all right, I'm going to pick this up so we can see it here. We're going to use the low setting. And you can see it gets going pretty quickly. Probably 4 or 5 inches from the rod blank. Moving it back and forth. Don't stay in one place too long. And there you have it. So, abalone jig skin on that rod blank. Now, you can also come in, put you a decal over that. You don't actually need to put finish on that if you put a decal over it right now. So, you could put some trim bands in here, put some finish over it, and then put a decal on it. It'll give it kind of that floating effect, and that's a pretty good option if you wanted to maybe do abalone a little more inexpensively. If you want to kind of experiment with it a little bit, you can put this under guide feet as an under wrap. You can put it in a split grip. Anywhere that you can slide it onto a rod blank and use a heat gun, use hot water, something like that, it'll stick. You do need to put finish over this though. Do not just assume that you can put it on there and leave it. It is just, like a vinyl type. You can scratch it. You can booger this up if you don't put finish on it.
Yeah.
So
it's a cool way too. A lot of people don't think about it. If you have a spot on your rod that maybe got a little beat up or scratched or whatever it might be, you can use these abalone jig skins. You can use rod skins. These are great for trying to cover up a piece of your blank or your rod that maybe is scuffed up that
Absolutely.
You need to cover up.
Absolutely.
Like maybe you removed some thread or an old piece of epoxy or a decal. It's a great way to just cover up a spot that you would rather, maybe not see the whole time you're out fishing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great point as a boo-boo fixer, kind of as a cover-up. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about, we're going to put a decal over a dragon scale or some kind of a thread wrap here. I've got I guess we'd call it kind of the cheat way to dragon scale, because you can do it a couple different ways. You can lay down a dragon scale with thread, and mad respect for those that do that. It's very simple to do, just like using your butt wrap alignment tool. You make your marks on it, and you pretty much work the pattern with thread for the length of it. Or you can also use the drywall mesh tape that's on the wall there.
Right.
All right, you want to grab that for me? And, all right, so this is what the drywall mesh tape looks like. And it's pretty much just a grid of little strips and pieces here. Of course, it's always difficult to find that. Did you?
Just like every roll of tape is.
I was going to say, did you cut the tag ends off of here? I knew I had. All right, you look for that while I get this other one. So what we have done is I have a rod blank that got it finished already. And we did a bonefish here with a floating decal. So what this is, it is a dragon scale wrap in between a split grip with, we got trim bands here on the outside. And then what we did is we've used multiple coats of finish. You can see pretty thick worth finish there. And then we drop in the bonefish. And the bonefish has a very kind of a floating look to it there. And you can even, the light will even cast kind of a shadow behind it. So that's pretty cool there. All right, I'm going to leave this here. And we're going to get the Chris cam out.
Let's do it. What was that? What is it called?
It's the Chris cam.
The Chris cam. Gotcha.
The Chris cam. So, all right. So what we're going to do is they're actually giving me one of these so that I can show you guys.
Mistake number one.
That's it. All right. Jay, are we able to get it? All right. So let me get a little zoom in here on this. Okay. So there it is there.
There it is.
So that is your floating decal with the dragon scale.
Chris cam is live.
Cool. How about that, boys and girls?
That's pretty cool.
Not too bad, huh?
Can't get much closer than that.
Can't get too much closer. Exactly. All right, so that is what that looks like. Now, we also have kind of a before and after, and I'll show you guys when you go to lay down. Let me get this piece here.
Yep.
All right, so that is the kind of the after. This is what it looks like when you go to do this. I've got this piece here is just some red with some dragon scale on it underneath it. And this is what it looks like before you put your trim bands on. You can see there's a little bit of kind of hangover here before you put your trim band. I actually blocked this piece of trim band out with black thread here. So if you go through the process of wrapping this dragon scale type look to it, you will lay it in your hand wrapper, pull you a piece. I'm actually going to throw a tag in there.
Nice.
Throw a tag in like this, right? So get you a 90 degree, and then we cut it. Now, Hunter, a lot of the times you cut this in half, right?
You can, definitely. It makes it a little easier to work with when you have a wider piece and you're trying to go around the blank. And of course, there's a couple of different ways you can lay out the pattern that you want. But with the wider pieces, it does make it a little more difficult. So going in, and as you can see, Chris is doing this, you know, somewhat precise. You don't want to just go kind of, you know, not an even pattern
right
up through there.
Because what you will see is out here on this outside, there's kind of hanging little ends that don't have like the little termination piece on this side. So here's like the little termination piece, and then here's the hanging piece. I tend to cut those off, but if you've got this over here, I would put that on both sides. So what it does is it gives you a line to go on. And then from there, really all you're going to do is lay this down, and you're going to turn and wrap it. And you might have to kind of play and adjust how this lines up, and then it'll come around like that. So see that there? That's how that does. You'll just continue it on around, and then you'll wrap over it with your metallic thread. Now the reason I did the two different colors here is you can kind of see you got to be somewhat careful with what you choose. Granted, the red shows up really good on camera. The gray is not quite as good. If you do this in like, you know, solid black, you're probably not going to see anything.
Right.
And of course, the one we showed you there with the bonefish, that was a very sea foam. That really, really pops out in the sun. So I did this on purpose. So when you guys are picking and choosing colors, be careful going too dark of a color.
Absolutely.
So that's it.
Easy enough. And then, yeah, you can just wrap over with thread, finish it.
Yep.
And that would definitely be a great option to do multiple thin layers of epoxy. So you can really try to get that depth
Exactly.
into the
Because actually,
into the dragon scale.
yep. So, and actually this gray has a very thin layer of epoxy. I actually used just the light build from Threadmaster there on this one to kind of show what it looks like with a little bit of sheen on it. That's got finish on it. So do a very thin layer, then throw your decal on it, or you can do multiple layers, or you can use high build. Really start to stack that up, almost like you would a tiger wrap.
Right.
Stack that up, throw your decal, then add you some more finish. But this is what it looks like before the finish is on there. So that's that. Now, don't just think that dragon scale is your only option. Hunter, who is kind of the cross wrap guy you've seen, don't critique me on this too much. But I threw down just a little bit of some cross wraps there. This is actually thread underneath it. So I did just mark out a few little X's on the butt wrap alignment tool, and then quickly threw some of that MHX green on there. Hopefully that shows a little bit on, you can see somewhat of the texture on there, but you see I got it taped off here. Then what I did is I added just a very thin layer of finish. Because there is a little bit more relief, so that thread stands up taller than the drywall mesh tape, you're probably gonna have to put a couple coats over this because this is still kind of rigid. If you tried to lay a decal over this right now,
Yeah.
you're gonna get air bubbles.
Absolutely. Yep.
So.
And that's cool. I mean, you're just using thread and you're creating something that's just not your ordinary, single layer of thread.
Yep.
You add one extra component, all of a sudden you add some texture, multiple layers of finish, you got depth. Super simple to just come up with an easy little thing to just, make your rod stand out a little bit more.
Exactly. Now, one more thing before we go. I don't know if this gold shows up all that well, but the gold, we actually took 2 fish decals, because it is cut vinyl. We took 2 fish decals and put it under some thread, and we went through.
Yeah, you can see.
You can kind of sort of
Little bit.
see the snook there. So that snook is buried under some gold thread. So actually looks pretty cool. We were actually thinking if you went and added some finish and then put the same decal over the top of it and added some more finish, it might even give it a little more of a 3D look there.
Yep. So again, super easy. Thread, a couple decals, and you have something creative that you can show off to your buddies.
That's it. Now, since we're doing rapid fire, this is another decal option. So we took Brooke and we were in here discussing how were we going to give the decal maybe a little bit more pop and somewhat of a drop shadow to it. So this is our crappie killer, and this is actually white on top of red. So we double stacked the decal there. I think you guys can see that.
There's just a little hint of red
Yeah.
on the, the left side?
Yeah, and you can actually see it much more if you were in here in the
Yeah.
penthouse with us.
And you can definitely, you can even see a little bit of the red come through the white too. It's not even just on the edges. It's
Yeah.
really, really cool, especially when you get out in the sun. Since that red is a metallic color, it just pops.
It really does. So now when you're doing that, you would just, order your logo or the decal or whatever in the couple different colors. Because that red has a very mirror metallic to it, it looks really, really cool.
Yep.
And just be aware that when you are stacking decals on top of one another, pay attention to the edges that you cut. So keep in mind that now instead of putting one decal down, you're now stacking 2 decals, so you're creating a lip that's a little bit taller.
Right.
So a couple things that I might do is I would cut either the top decal either a little wider to cover the bottom seam or a little thinner and have more of a stair step, and then come in, use your thread technique, wrap the thread over it, really lock that decal down,
Yep.
and then I would probably come in with the Pro Seal, because now you're dealing with 2 seams, you're dealing with, you know, just an extra little bit of chance that you can make a boo-boo over the stacked decals. So,
Cool.
pretty cool.
That was definitely rapid fire.
There it is. So,
the-
well, you know, we do so much, or we don't do enough of the decorative stuff. I know we wanted to kind of sprinkle in some little ideas and thoughts, and you guys would be surprised at how some of these ideas come up. You know, we're either visiting, passing through the office, or we're in there in the marketing room and something hits us and we run in here real quick, and sometimes we come up with some things that don't work that we end up throwing away, and we go, well, we probably shouldn't mention that, but every now and then we come up with something that's kind of cool, and hopefully that'll plant a seed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let y'all run with it and then go, oh, well, if I could do that but change it like this, and then, hey, you got...
Feel free to you could literally take everything we talked about on the show tonight, almost, and combine it into one design on a rod. You could do, you know, an abalone with decals, with dragons. I mean, you can really get crazy with it.
Yep. Or you can just wrap black thread with black guides.
I mean, yeah, that's what we do.
Go fish. So, cool. All right, so let's hit some questions. We've got to give some stuff away. What do you want to do?
Let's do, I want to answer Alan's question. How would you put a fish scale into a rod? For example, a drum or a tarpon scale. So Alan, personally, I've never done it before, but I believe the method that we're going to use to show the feather inlay will be a great technique and can be used, essentially color preserver is the key component there.
Yes.
Color preserver acts almost like a glue agent and can take a feather, can take a fish scale, for example, and adhere it to your rod blank.
Yep.
So we'll get to that a little bit, but I think that will be a great way to do it.
And one thing too, I would be careful. I have some old tarpon scales at home. I know a lot of tarpon anglers, they have kept a tarpon scale from a fish that they've caught or something like that. The scale, when it is off the fish or it's been kept in water or on ice or something like that, it's much more pliable than if you leave it to completely dry out.
Right.
So, you know, if you know that you're going to do something like this, definitely don't just, you know, when you get home to wash the boat and you see that there's a scale stuck on the side of the gunnel or something, you know, go, oh, just peel that off and it's rock hard. You're not going to be able to match the curvature of the blank. So
True.
Definitely take something, you know, think ahead a little bit. Maybe put it in a bag, keep it in a cooler. You need to keep it so it doesn't get dried out in the sun. And then from there, I do think the color preserver would be the way to go.
Cool.
And again, use your option of wrapping the, you know, I would wrap the thread over it possibly as well. But, you know, pull a few scales, do a few tests, but there should be no reason why you can't do it.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Let's see what else we got. Joe, how big is the bass in the background?
I think that fish was just over 10. That was left here by one of a former employee, donated that here, and I believe that fish was just over 10. So
Nice fish,
yep.
for sure.
Caught here in the state of Florida, actually just outside Orlando. So yeah,
Very cool.
Just over 10.
You got one you want to hit?
The one question, do you install this effect before installing the grip, cork, or foam? I'm not sure which effect we were talking about, but depending on where it's placed, you can do it before or after. You just got to make sure you hit your measurements. So if you did want to do this here, so I've got this, you can see I'm down here in the split grip, right? As long as you know your fighting butt length, as long as you've got this length, as long as you know how long you're going to put this here, just measure this off, because you always have a little bit of wiggle room out here on either side of the dragon scale, whether you do a cross wrap, whether you use the abalone. You've always got some wiggle room so that you'll put some trim bands in, then you can assemble the handles and do that.
Yeah.
What I wouldn't do is I wouldn't put that up here before you slide your grips over. Because if you've got this, you know, if you have if this little bit of trim thread here, if this was actually a dragon scale or something that I did before and tried to slide it over it, you might pull some threads loose, or you might, you know, and of course as it slides down, you don't want to try to go over the finish if you don't have to. Now, if you're repairing a rod and you don't have a choice, you don't have a choice. But, you know, when you're building one from scratch right out the gate, you can put it on before as long as you're not having to, you know, slide something over
Exactly. Yep. Just plan ahead and
Yeah.
good either way.
That's one of those measure twice, cut once kind
Exactly.
of things, right?
Eric, what silk works best for an invisible wrap on decals?
Yep.
So Eric, well, it doesn't matter what size you use, I would say, but as long as you use white silk, that's the key component. Your wraps will go invisible after epoxy is applied. Really cool effect to do on guide wraps.
Absolutely. Todd, real quick, please show us how to get a level glass smooth finish over longer areas, such as the area where the decal is placed. Todd, for this, it is multiple thin coats of finish.
Right.
So on most of my builds, because I'm doing either a bass rod, a light inshore rod, or a fly rod, I'm already using the Threadmaster Light. I've used the Pro Coat medium build for a number of years to great success, but I also wanted to even go lighter on the finish than that. So what I did is I even went down farther to the light build of the Threadmaster. Don't use high build, and what you want to do is paper thin coats and just do multiple coats, but you got to do them very, very thin. That's what's going to make sure that you have a perfectly level glass finish over that, because when you start seeing kind of a wave and a fisheye effect, that's because people have put too much finish on, and then as the finish tries to self-level, it can only self-level so much.
Yeah.
You know, if you just globbed it on and globbed it on, it's not going to be perfect. But if you do very, very thin coats, apply some heat, let some of the excess drip off, and almost just like you're wetting that section and not stacking it on there, that's the best way to do it. So, you want to give something away?
Let's do it. Third place giveaway.
We have a third place giveaway, which is going to be custom decal, a rod supply kit.
4-rod supply kit.
So that is your, what is that, Pro K2?
Pro SK2.
Pro SK2.
Yep.
All right, so custom decal, Pro SK2, and
Thread pack.
a thread pack. Who's that going to go to?
The winner is Ronald Williamson from Facebook.
Perfect.
Wow, an easy name.
Well,
Love
you know,
it.
I figured I would ease you into the night, right? So
Ronald
cool. That shouldn't be
Williamson.
too expensive on your credit card.
No,
I know
not too bad.
You've had 3 weeks to
that's-
pay it down.
You know,
so
that's third place, so we'll we'll see. We'll see.
we got a little ways to go. That's
I took
for sure.
a peek at the first place prize earlier, and wow.
I see it. It's a good one.
Oh yeah, it's a
it's
good
a
one.
good one.
I think you maxed out my card on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So we are going to move to the next demo.
Yeah.
Now, this next demo, it's something that we've never done. It's
Sure.
something that I don't know if it's just a little difficult for me.
Yeah, for me too.
I know it's a little difficult for you too.
I personally do not have very good handwriting.
Neither do I.
Yours is bad. It's better than mine.
I don't know. I think not to put down any physicians out there that might be watching, but my mom used to say, if you could just, go through med school on your poor handwriting, you'd be great.
You got it.
Yeah, I would be great. So again, nothing against any of the physicians out there, but I can scribble with the best of them. So yeah, all right. So we gave away third place, Ronald Williamson. Congratulations. Let's get that scrolled down and let's get going with some writing on a blank. Now, we had Taylor and Hoffma and Guff. They went through there and they showed us how to do a little bit of writing on there, and I thought it was pretty cool. They really did a heck of a job. So they were in here in the penthouse. We let them in. Late at night they were working, so Taylor was in here, and he's got that silver marker. We have that extra fine point. We sell them on the website there. So go through, anchor the blank down to the table. Some people like to use a brace. Taylor is excellent at freehanding, and he was like, no, I can just knock this out right here. So he did. He did a great job. So I'm going to show you guys, we're going to talk about maybe how to ease into this because I can't just, you know, stand on a rod blank on the table and just kind of scribble away. So we are going to show a couple different options. I'm going to
move this over?
Yeah, let's do that. Actually slide that because I'm going to use this, this piece. So again, we've got the silver here, extra fine point.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm actually going to use the track.
This is the limited edition black track.
We had to get us a limited edition one. So, all right. So I have a section of blank here, and if you have the whole track assembled, depending on how much room you got, you could pull your rod stands out and actually go right down in the track. Now, yes, I cheated a little bit, and I found a blank that would fit very, very well in there. But if you've got one that isn't as snug of a fit, you can actually add a couple little pieces of tape on here, maybe create somewhat of an arbor before you write on here. The reason that I did this is because putting it below the base of your hand is actually easier for me than actually writing, you know, like this, right? So I kind of had this like weird kink in my elbow here.
Yeah.
But I can write better when the rod is more like at table height, like when you're like writing on a piece of paper. So I'll show you. You want to man the cam?
The Chris cam?
The Chris cam, now Hunter cam. You didn't do a graphic for Hunter, did you?
Of course not. Gosh. They just skipped me.
There you go. Turn her on right here.
Oh, wrong way.
Right there.
It was already on, okay.
Nope. There we go. All right. Let's see what we got. I'm going to put one right here so you give you something to...
All right, let me focus in.
Get you the A going here. Everybody hold their breath.
Yep, stand by.
Oh, there it is a little bit. All right, cool. Got it? So again, it's below here a little bit. Oh, am I in the light?
There we go, now go.
See, I'm already messing up. Stand by, here we go. See, of course, and I'm crooked there, but this is how you would write on a rod blank. Like that. All right?
Awesome.
Not too bad. And that's all I got, folks.
That's it.
I can write my last name. I've been practicing all day.
All right, let me put this down.
Shut that guy right there off, I think. Or can we leave that on?
Yeah, either way, it's good for now.
You keep turning the knob.
Oh.
All right, so you can use the track, or for those that have too many mudhole catalogs, because you're a great customer of ours, you can actually use the book method. So get you a couple catalogs, create you a little spot there.
Sandwich.
Yep. Now, depending on where you're at in your house or mom's basement or kitchen counter, you can put you a couple catalogs there. The catalog is nice because you can actually change the width of it if you have to like open pages or you want to cut some pages or if you want to stack a flyer on top of the catalog. Yeah. And then of course from there you have a little bit better. See, I'm better without the hovering. But there you have it. So that's how you can write there a little flatter. So that's just a tip on trying to be able to write on a rod blank where you get the rod below your hand a little bit more. That's kind of the key there. That's the takeaway, I should say. So
yeah, you guys out there and girls that are a little more artistically inclined.
Yeah.
Not like us.
Not like us.
You can really come up with some cool things because I mean honestly, really nice handwriting on a rod blank. Especially when you see it on
it's sharp.
Those top brands of fly rods.
Yeah.
A lot of those companies still do.
Like Winston and Scott, I think.
They still write. Handwrite, model numbers, SKU numbers.
It's so good.
Length, line weight. It's super cool. It's unique. Awesome.
Now, if you don't want to use the silver or the gold and you want to kind of expand your horizons a little bit, you can actually use a fountain pen, and then you can use pretty much any enamel from testers. So you can go to Hobby Lobby or something like that and get those little tiny jars of, I don't even know how many colors. I mean, they have a ton of colors. They've got metallics. They've got all kinds of crazy stuff. From there, I like to let, whether it's that, whether it's the tester stuff, let it cure. Do not just run and put finish right over it. Because if you go to put finish right over it, it's just like hot finish on a decal, and it'll just turn into a big smear fest. Yeah. So if it's, that might be the only thing that could help my ugly handwriting would be if I just smeared it into the finish, and it would be like, silver pigment and finish. So yeah, that would be what I would do. And of course, Taylor did one here. We don't have any trim bands here, but that's leaving it up to y'all's imagination. This is the Bass Ripper from Taylor Bellinger. So nice. Come in, add some trim bands, add a decal, put a little finish on it. This is good and cured. It's been probably a day and a half. Let it roll. Yeah. So Gary asked, how long do you let it dry before finishing? There's a lot that goes into that. It depends on whether you use this paint pen, whether you use the testers, if you're in a cold environment, high humidity. I would go no less than probably, 4 hours?
Several hours.
I mean, I would go no less than 4. Please don't just put it on like 10 minutes after.
Yeah. One thing I would suggest with a lot of these things that we've shown tonight, try to experiment before you just go and put it on your next rod build. Get a piece of scrap blank. And two, that's going to, with the pen, for example, you can do a little bit of practice, see how good your handwriting is actually going to look on the rod blank. It'll also give you time to see how long it's going to take to dry.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things, just don't go into it and put it on your next rod build or your client's rod build. Do some experimentation, try it out before you actually just jump in, and make sure you got everything worked out.
And if you're doing this, I would possibly have a little denatured alcohol ready, because if you go to write and you go, oh man, I misspelled my name. Not that we've ever done that before. Your denatured alcohol will take her right off. Why not?
Done. Another must-have for the rod building bench.
That's it, because that's what we use in this little guy here.
Yep.
Got to have denatured alcohol around for the alcohol burner. That question comes up a lot too.
It does.
So there you go. Denatured alcohol and the alcohol burner.
Boom.
So, all right.
All right.
All right.
Let me see.
What are we doing now? We are going to. We got any more questions?
Let's do Trevor's.
Okay.
What determines categorizing blanks as cast versus spin, and can the blank be either without sacrificing the listed intention of the blank? Great question. So categorizing the blank cast versus spin is purely, in my opinion, up to the manufacturer. And that can vary even by brands too. For instance, MHX, we don't technically have, we do have a spinning category, which is more on the lighter side. A lot of stuff you'd use for panfish or light freshwater, but we don't really have a casting category, right? But, for instance, St. Croix, who no longer makes blanks, but they categorize most of their blanks as either casting or spinning. So really, it depends on the manufacturer.
And I think they used to do it in a model number too.
Yeah, there was 2C, 2S, which was casting or spinning. But to answer the most important part of your question, that rod blank, once it's built from the blank manufacturer, it does not know what it's intended to be.
Right.
It doesn't know if it's going to be a rod to fish for bluegill, a rod to fish for bass, a rod to be a casting rod, a spinning rod. You can use it for whatever that you want to.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be built spinning. It doesn't have to be built casting. It does not matter.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point because we do have, like you said, we do have a spinning category, but in the spinning category, it's just because the rod is a little bit thinner diameter, has a little bit more of a parabolic type bend, things like that. But I mean, we've taken flipping sticks offshore to catch, you know, dolphin, barracuda, sailfish. We've done all kinds of different things. So that is a great point. So, all right.
Before we dive into...
I was going to say, we've got that, and I want to show the new guides.
So I'm going to put this out front, actually, if we want to get a quick zoom so we can talk about this. Because the last show, we did not get to talk about it.
But
so
boy, I
this
like
is a lot of time is put into this project. The Advanced Hand Wrapper from CRB. So this is the 4-spool version, the AHWS-2. We also have a 2-spool version, which is the -1. Right?
Okay.
So 2 different options there. This thing is packed with awesome features. You know, first off, you can see that we have the knobs on, you know, the ends of each thread
carriage.
Carriage, yeah.
Right.
We also have them on the stands themselves. These knobs are much easier to work with rather than the you know, what we had in the first version of the hand wrapper. They allow you to really get dialed in on your tension. You know, we also have these spool retainers on both sides, which have ball bearings in each. You know, we've also put insets into the base itself, so you can put, you know, you can put your guides, you can put your decal, you can put a little. Yeah, put some guides in there.
Do your
any little
razor blade goes down in there?
Especially it's cool for like micro guides, stuff that's easily misplaced on your rod building bench. You can drop those in there. Hook keepers, small little items like that.
Yep.
What else we got?
I'll do the bottom.
Yeah.
So on the underside, y'all are familiar with the little stickies that used to get stuck on the bottom here. Now what we've got is, you can see there are rectangular kind of insets here, and what we did is we actually took them out because they are removable. So we actually took them out because we were utilizing these 3 mounting locations for the roller bearings that actually allow this thing to slide on the track. But in the kit, or you know, when you buy the Advanced Hand Wrapper, there are rubber feet that actually slide into each one of these, this one, this one, this one, and this one, on the bottom here. So, you know, before you would have those tiny little stick-on feet that you would end up losing, or they would come off. Now, those feet are actually molded and can be slid into, you know, a spot on the underside of that base station that they don't move. They don't come out. And if you want to utilize them on the track, you just slide them right out, put that roller bearing set on there, and slide them in there, because you'll have, you know, the 3 on the top and the 3 on the bottom.
Yeah.
So.
And, you know, we did have a couple features that did carry over from the original hand wrapper. We still have the tension rod here that you can really, you know, if you need to stop while you're wrapping, it's no problem. It's not gonna, thread's gonna go everywhere.
Right.
It's great. We've also, you know, little things like there's 2 sets of notches on this rod stand, which come in really handy depending on what size, diameter of rod blank you're using. You know, it's little things like that that we've brought into this Advanced Hand Wrapper that really make it a big upgrade.
Yep, for sure. I mean, it's, you know, we've been using this style of thread carriage here on the show quite a bit. That style also comes, you know, in this thread carriage that you see. Actually, we use it, you know, on the rolling track a lot. So we took, you know, kind of the inset from this one. We took these thread carriages. We did some things and kind of put it all together. And like you said, for those that don't need a 4-spool carriage and you just want the 2-spool, we do have the Advanced Hand Wrapper with just the 2-spool.
Yep.
So.
Yep, and the 2-spool version I think it's right under $50. So, you know, it's a great value.
Yep.
I know that you to this day still use a hand wrapper,
I still
right?
hand wrap. Yep.
You know, it's just one of those things. If you're not comfortable going up to a power wrapper, if you don't feel the need to, a hand wrapper is still a great option to wrap with.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you know, and when I build like a fly rod or a light inshore rod, I don't have that long of wraps. I don't need the power wrapping option. Now, I do have some tracks, and I do have an RBS Pro for turning grips and doing some other things. But really, I also don't have a really cool rod building room or a rod building bench that a lot of our customers have shown off in the group there.
Very true.
Speaking of, if you haven't been over to that Mudhole Live Rod Builders Workshop group in a while, we're getting real close, like real dangerously close to 10,000. And Hunter doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to get his credit card out when we hit 10,000 people, and you guys are going to get something. We're going to do some giveaways, and they're going to be real good. So tell your mom, tell your cousin, tell everybody. They need to run over to that Rod Builders Workshop page on Facebook. There's great people in there. There's great tips, great tricks. And for those that haven't posted, they're really killer rod building rooms or rod building benches. Do it after the show tonight because we love seeing that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still a hand wrapper guy, but, when you don't have the room, you don't have the room. Yep. But it's this is the next step for sure. The advanced hand wrapper is cool. So,
one more new thing.
Yep.
One more new product.
Now, I've been a fan of these since they have come out. These are the CRB SSR guides. And you've seen them in polished, and you've seen them in a black frame with a polished ring, okay? All stainless steel. The rings are a double swaged, which for those that don't know what that means is if you look at it from the side, the ring actually comes out and then wraps around the frame on this side and on this side. So the ring is actually, it's almost like putting in a rivet where it compresses out and around. So the ring is put in as a tube and then it's pressed from both sides that gives you that double swage on both sides. The reason for that is because if it's only on one side, you can get a sharp edge and it can nick and cut your line. So you don't want that to happen, especially for the guys. I mean, we do it too, even on our casting rods where you take and you like fold the line over the guides, you twist it around. Mm-hmm. These will not cut that because of that double-sided. So polished, black frame, polished ring, all stainless steel. Yes, I have used these with braid. Yes, I've used them in salt water, and they're still kicking. They're great, and you got no ring to kick out. Now, here are the two new colors. We have a full Gunsmoke, which is Gunsmoke frame, Gunsmoke ring, and then we have the black frame with the black ring. So now we've got four. We've got all polished, the black frame with the polished ring, we've got all Gunsmoke, and then we have black on black, and these things are cool. Now these are the standard Y frames, okay? So we've got Y frame, we've got a match style, which is a really high frame guide. Yep. We have small runners, and we have casting guides. Yep. So double-footed casting, single-footed runners. Run over to that, mudhole.com/SSR guides after the show. They're all in there, and we do have them in kits.
We do. Yep.
So all of those pictures, all the kits, all the individual guides are up at Mudhole. They're here. I was in the warehouse today picking these up for us, and we got plenty in there, so y'all get on them. All right.
I think we should do one more giveaway.
Yes.
And then we'll do the feather.
Let's give something away. So what we're going to do is we are going to give a 4-rod supply kit, which is the Pro SK2 finishing kit, very similar to the one we did before. We are going to throw in the paint markers for those that don't have the paint markers, and so that you can do some trim bands, some dragon scale, any decorative work you want, we are going to do a metallic thread pack in there as well. So for the runner-up, that's a pretty cool kit, and we're going to give that to Drew Turner from Facebook. So, pretty cool.
Cool.
Pretty cool. 4-rod supply kit, paint markers, and metallic thread pack is the runner-up. That's the second place giveaway. Drew Turner from Facebook. Cool. All right, Hunter Man.
All right.
What you got?
It's feather time.
It's
How
feather
about that?
time. I like it.
Yet to say that.
We have not done this at all.
I do need one more rod band.
And I tell you what, we got some really cool stuff out here too.
We do. Let's show a couple of these first. How about that?
Yep.
And if you would maybe try to locate a rod band for me.
All right. I have one down here.
So, there is obviously a ton of different, let me know when you're good on that. I'll try to keep it steady, at least for a second. So that's a pretty good example right there. I'm going to turn this so you guys can see a few different options. You can get really, really creative with the feathers. You can go something, you know, basic, like that one right there. Or I'm going to rotate this down to this guy right here, maybe in a second if I can get it. Where's it at? Yeah, right there, that one. So you can actually create, you know, lures by using feathers. You can probably create landscapes. I don't even know what the options are. I mean, it's just endless of what you can do, right? But you can go crazy with it. And it's super, super easy. Really the hardest part is coming up with the concept of it.
Yeah.
Let's show that one real quick,
This
because
one
that's
is
probably
wild.
the best one.
We actually saw one like this in the group. Yeah, Nick,
I'll grab that one.
You got a couple more over there?
Let me see those. We'll show off some examples before we show the how-to.
All right, Nick, let's get on the zoom here, and let's check this one out. So, this guy is a bass. So, this is actually over a pearl metallic, then feathers that created this bass here. That's pretty cool. That's the deal.
It's even got a little lure coming off the side.
A little lure, a little
to
fly, a
it.
little something.
Yeah, some line.
Even ran the thread there off of the trim band, did a little wind knot there, and did that. So this one is definitely a little bit nicer than I would have gone here. He's got carbon fiber in here. Got some this feather for those that is it salmon flies that a lot of the people put this on for an eye?
Yeah.
These are a really rare feather. You can't find them anymore. That's the jungle cock feather there. A lot of fly tyers use that as an eye on the side of like I believe salmon flies and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's some pretty cool stuff there. You can get wild with feathers. And what else you got? You got another one?
This is another bass, but this one's cool because it actually has a bait fish that it's chasing. The glare is a little, there we go, right there.
That is pretty neat.
So it's actually chasing like, I don't know, maybe a shad or a shiner or something there.
Yeah.
So super, super cool. And you know, from you guys at home watching, you probably don't even think that those are feathers, but
Trust me.
if you could see them up close, it is
They really are.
really incredible. But, hate to burst your bubble, guys, but we're not going to be doing that on the show. That's a little
Come on,
it's a little too advanced, but I'm going to show you how to put a feather on a rod.
I've had all day to practice.
Right. Those rods, at least two of those rods were made by Mr. Pat Van Zant. He has a ton of knowledge building rods. Really, really good.
Oh, I'm going to get ready on the cam.
The Chris Cam.
The Chris cam.
All right, so first things first is you got to get a feather, right?
Got to get a
So
feather.
I saw a feather, or not a feather, a question earlier. Should I color preserve a real bird feather before applying epoxy? And so I'm going to get into that right now. So essentially what I like to start with, even before you got your feather, is I prefer to put the feather on top of thread. Just like you saw in the examples earlier, those are all done over top of thread. It's so much easier, to me at least, to work with a base of thread as opposed to just doing it on the exposed blank.
Sure.
It's a little bit easier because most rod blanks will either have like a gloss finish to them. The feather doesn't really want to stick to it very well, even with the color preserver. So what I usually do, and this is an example that we did last week actually, is I put a layer of Color Fast, I think it's size A, doesn't really matter, but Color Fast white down first. I actually added color preserver, did a layer of color preserver to that, and then let that dry. Then what you can do is actually come back in with the feather of your choice, lay that on top, and then apply the color preserver. So this is the finished example. Let you get a good look at that. And as you can see, that feather is it's on there. It's not epoxied per se, but it's basically glued.
Right, and you have no finish on this.
There's no finish on this whatsoever.
Cool.
Cool. All right, so let's jump into it. So I've already got my layer of thread, my white color fast thread on the blank. I also have, I've already put a layer of color preserver on there as well and let that dry. So be sure you do that. I'm just doing this cooking show style so we can kind of go through the show a little bit faster.
Sure.
But I'll say that again, it's one layer of NCP or color fast thread,
Okay.
preferably white because it really makes the feathers pop. Obviously you can do, you know, if you're working with white feathers, maybe you want to use black thread, you know, something to contrast the colors.
Absolutely.
So once I've got my layer of thread down, I've got a one coat of CP or color preserver, let that dry. Now we're going to come in with our feather. So for you fly tying guys at home, this is your chance to shine because more than likely
Yeah.
you have a ton of feathers, whether it be, you know, a saddle, whether it be these guinea feathers that I've got here. You probably have an assortment of feathers at home.
Yeah, mallard and any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's great.
And you can use anything, you know, any feather goes. I don't think there's any feather that I probably wouldn't want to use for this, right? And another thing too, which I'm not really going to show, but I want to touch on it before we get started, is peacock herl, which this actually has the eye as well. This is also a great product to use. You can use these small little pieces of herl if you wanted to do maybe the line coming off the edge of a trim band or a thread wrap going to the fish's mouth, or, you know, the options are endless.
Yeah, I know that the tails on those fish were cut herl.
Right.
So it gave kind of that, you know, like in the bass up there, you can see the lines and the fins and stuff. So if you want to get crazy with that, that was actually peacock herl that's in that.
And even the eye too. The eye has a lot of color into it. You can go in, snip little pieces out, get really creative with it. So peacock herl and the eye too especially. Not all peacock herl will come with the eyes, but if you can find the 2-in-1, that is probably your best shot. So anyway, if you do happen to start with, let's say, a saddle that is used a lot for fly tying, it's going to have a ton of different sizes of feathers. Some are really, you know, skinny. Some are a little bit thicker at the base down here. Depending on what you're trying to create, what you're trying to use, any size feather, you know, you just kind of play with and see what comes out the best. Yeah,
because some of those out in the tip, you know, or out on the ends maybe are one of being the thinner feather. You know, if you have a really thin rod blank, like a fly blank or a crappie blank or something, you know, you're going to want to use that. And then, of course, in what we showed earlier, you used a feather with a little bit wider webbing so that it kind of, you can actually splay it out a little bit more because you've got more diameter of blank to work with.
Right. And one thing I want to show really quick is, obviously you can make this as you know, short as you want or as long as you want, depending on the length of the feather. One thing I like to do though is I stay away from the part of the feather from here down. This like really, really soft, these fibers, this webbing on the side here, like from the middle half down, I stay away from those. Okay. They're really hard to work with once you get them on the rod blank with color preserver. They don't really stand their ground, I guess you could say, as much. Okay. They really just kind of want to go everywhere. So I will come in, and can I get your snips real quick?
Yeah, you want these little short guys?
So I'm really only working with this part of the feather, the part that has the fibers that are a little more rigid. And I'll just go in, simply cut that guy right there. Done. Come here. So once we have that, I'll go to my thread. I'll make sure that it's kind of proportional, it's equal. I'll lay that down just to check. I've got a pretty decent amount of thread on each side. And of course, like I said, this can vary depending on the length of your feather, what kind of design you're creating, so forth, right?
Yeah, because you can always pre-select feathers and then give an approximate how long you want your base and then go from there. Or, you know, if you really want to just kind of wing it, you can wing it if you want.
All right, next step, our Pro Seal.
Okay.
So, and of course you can use any color preserver you want. They're all basically close to the same.
Right.
I'm going to use Pro Seal today, and I'm going to take this off, and I'm just going to pour a decent amount into my foiled dish. That's way too much, but
hey, you're buying it.
we're going to run with it.
That's it.
So once I've got that, what I like to do is take a disposable brush. I've got a yellow brush here.
Mm-hmm. Those are the 1/4 inchers?
Yep. And where did my feather go?
That's right here.
Oh. And what you guys will notice too, when you are picking out a feather, whether it be from a saddle or wherever, go for one that definitely has, you know, they all vary a little bit in color.
Mm-hmm.
Really go through there, pick one out that has a cool pattern, cool barbs to it.
Yeah, I was going to say that one has some barring in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So, all right, so once we got this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in my brush, a little bit of color preserver, and I'm just going to put, you know, be mindful of what side of the rod blank you want to put this on as well. You know, if this is my top section, I'm going to put it right on top. If you put it on the bottom, you know, maybe you don't see it all the time. Be mindful of where you want to put it. So all I'm going to do is go in. We good on camera there? I'm going to go in with just a little bit of color preserver right on top. Just barely enough to wet it.
So you're going to kind of use that to stick the feather to it?
Exactly.
Okay.
So all I'm going to do is take this feather, and once it kind of grabs there, I'll pick it up. It didn't sit right on the front. Cool. That's good enough right there.
Because you can kind of manipulate it.
You can. And so basically all I'm doing that first step is putting enough color preserver down so that when I do place the feather, it's going to stay there. And you can see the sides aren't, you know, they're still sticking out, but that's completely okay because I'm going to come in with just a little bit more, and I'm going to start on the ends. I'm just going to place a decent little spot there, a dab at the bottom. I'm going to come in at the top. I'm going to do the same thing. And once I have the top and bottom kind of anchored, you're good to go. And then from there, I'm just going to work towards the middle. I know what you're thinking. Wow, that does not look good at all, right?
No, we would never say that.
The great thing about color preserver is it dries clear. So it has this milky color right now, but once this dries in a few hours, it's actually going to be completely clear, and all you'll see is the feather. And so what I'm doing here is, you know, like I said, I worked to the middle. I worked about halfway down. I came to the bottom edge of the feather, and now I'm just going in and kind of manipulating those feathers to where they don't stand out now. They've kind of pushed down to the blank. And you can see it doesn't take much color preserve at all. This stuff is, you know, it's almost like glue to where once it's on there, it's kind of sticky and it will stick to that thread. And you're good to go. So once I've got that, at this point I pretty much have the entire feather is in a thin layer of color preserver. And it's pretty much kind of stuck onto that thread. So what I can do from here is go in with my thread pick. We'll get a little zoom action on this.
Yeah.
Because this is actually the fun part. So you can go in and you can actually manipulate these fibers even more.
Hang on, I got stand by. No, you're fine.
Good. Because, you know, the fibers look, in my opinion, they look a lot better. They give a better effect if they're a little bit away from the stem, I guess you could say, the middle of the feather. So all I'm doing is kind of going there, agitating them just a little bit, kind of getting them away from the middle so they'll stick out a little bit more. Go back to this side. That one's sticking up a little bit. Press him down. And this works really well too if you are going for maybe like a fish design. This works really, really well with trying to get those precise details.
Roll that back over for me there a little. There
That way?
Yeah, keep going. Yep. I know you're not done there yet, but.
And then, you know, if you fly tires at home, if you have a pair of hackle pliers, works really, really well with helping place the feather on top of the thread. And also if you're working with, you know, little bits of peacock curl or really small feathers. But as you can see, sometimes these fibers do want to kind of jump back to the middle. These have done pretty well. They're sticking out away from the stem. That's essentially it.
Cool.
So once you got that, the one thing you really want to stay away from is having too much buildup of color preserver. You know, this has, you can tell it is kind of saturated a little bit, but you just don't want to have it globbed on there, right?
Yep.
So what I'll do to just kind of finish this off, I'll go in, I'll kind of just the edges, I'll clean up that color preserver that's there.
Yeah.
Make sure it's smoothed out. And that's about it as far as putting the feather, attaching it to the rod blank.
This is pretty cool.
Give that a couple hours, maybe 3 or 4 just to be completely safe.
Yep.
It usually only takes about an hour or 2 to dry. Once you have that, you can put some epoxy on it and it's good to go. One thing I would say is if you are going to do multiple layers maybe, I would do this, say this is my first layer. I would do this, let the CP dry, then go back into the second layer and do the same process from start to finish.
Yep.
Put a little bit of
Pro Seal.
Pro Seal.
Yep.
To you? Is that better?
Yeah.
Cool. A little bit right,
Yeah, you're good.
right there. So yeah, if you are doing multiple layers, just start to finish, same process each time. You want to make sure that the CP dries and that first layer dries before you try to put anything over top of it, I guess you could say.
Right. Awesome. So yeah, it looks great. You look like a rod builder. Perfect.
Pretty cool.
We might have to add that in one of these days on one of the builds. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Very, very cool.
But yeah, it's super simple. The hardest part is getting your feathers, you know, and you can source those from wherever you can.
Yeah.
You know, if you got chickens running around your neighborhood, I mean, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
options are endless.
Absolutely. So Tim asked, can you use deer hair, squirrel tail, or rabbit fur? Tim, absolutely. Any of this stuff, you know, we've done snake skin, which we're going to have to do a show on.
Yep.
You know, we've laid snake skin in there. You can do a deer tail. You can do a squirrel tail. Now, keep in mind, you know, the deer tail or deer body hair and squirrel tail is a very rigid, it's a very rigid hair. So, and a deer tail is hollow. The actual pieces of hair are. That's why they use them for like deer hair poppers and things like that, because you know, they float really well, especially the body hair. That floats really, really well. So if you do that, just keep in mind, it's not going to flow on the rod blank as well as the webbing in that feather does. Now, the rabbit, that rabbit zonker will, you could make it do all kinds of things because it's so soft.
Yep.
And it's so easy to work with. You know, you could make it do all kinds of things. And of course, the colors with any of those are pretty much endless. So yeah, you could honestly use any one of those. So let's say, John, are you planning on doing a gold SSR guide? That I don't know. That is not really even a question for you, but we can certainly ask and see if gold SSRs are in the pipeline. You know, we do that sometimes. We'll bring out a couple colors. We'll introduce a couple more colors. You know, there's been gold and red and blue and all kinds of different, you know, guide frames and rings over the years. So I don't know, you know, gold might make an appearance.
Yeah,
for sure.
Brian's got a great question. Could you use the same technique on something like a clover or flower petal? And yes, absolutely can. That's the great thing, you know, about the color preserver that we mentioned. It works essentially across the board for any type of material you want to use.
The Pro Seal is very, I guess the right term would be like a neutral pH, right? So if you put that Pro Seal, you know, if you get it on your skin or if you put it on a feather or some type of, you know, something that has some coloring to it or something, it's not going to bleed that coloring off of it. Or, you know, it's very similar to if you just wet the feather with water. So it doesn't have any harsh chemicals in it or anything like that. So I don't see why that you wouldn't be able to use, you know, a rose petal or whatever in it. I mean, you know, you could probably do something very cool where you could, you know, stack rose petals or, you know, something to that extent that might even look like the almost like the fish scale cross wrap some of the guys do, where it's kind of like it stair steps and it kind of creates that kind of look. That would be kind of neat, and I would think you could do that with you know,
use
some
that
type
for
of a flower.
That could be the stem for the flower. I mean, there's
the what you call it, the hurl, the peacock hurl. George, do you need to clean the feathers first? I mean, we didn't really clean any of these feathers. I assume when they come from Metz or Wapsi or any of the fly manufacturers, you know, they probably are fairly clean. They don't come with any kind of special silicone coating or anything like that. They don't put any finish on the feathers. If you do, I would make sure to let it dry, you know. It doesn't need to be, you know, like you don't need to let it dry for 24 hours if you only use water. But if you use something that, you know, whether it's like alcohol or some kind of chemical, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you do want to rinse it with water or something, just let it dry because, again, the Pro Seal is very neutral. So even if the feather has a little bit of moisture or something to it, it's not going to, you know, really create the whole deal. I wouldn't dip a feather in a cup of water and go right on the blank with it. But, you know, you don't have to let it dry for a week. So, yeah. What else? You answered the question about the silk. Do you suggest using white silk over the feather? Steve, you can. I don't see why you would need to. The Pro Seal really gives it not only an adhesive to the blank, but it also coats it very nicely and puts a very thin film over it. So, you know, what I would be worried about is all the painstaking time and detail you go with the thread pick and you're moving all the webbing around like that, and then you go to wrap it. I feel like you're going to mess up if it's not completely dry.
Yeah.
I don't see a reason why you would need to use silk or any thread work over the top of the feather unless you want it to have some sort of an effect.
Yeah.
You know, if you wanted to use a red silk or a certain color to give it like a weird tint. Right. But no, I wouldn't. I would just use color preserver. So.
Well, I think that's gonna do it.
We're right there. Let me hit this question real quick.
Sure.
Mr. Vanover, does 91% rubbing alcohol work same or different than denatured alcohol? It's different. You can do some things with it. You can do some things with both. I would use the denatured alcohol in the alcohol burner because it burns so clean that you won't get any smoke in your finish. So when you're using, you know, the alcohol burner under your finish, you have to be careful. If you were to take this lighter, you can see that when you light that lighter, you can see little puffs of smoke. That smoke can actually get in your finish. If you've never done it, you'll only do it once. Trust me. You will do it and go, all right, cool, I just ruined that, and I'll never do it again. So use your alcohol burner, use a heat gun, use a torch, but the denatured alcohol is the cleanest burning that goes in that alcohol burner. The 91%, use it to clean stuff with. You can use denatured to clean stuff with too, but just don't I mean, to be honest, I've never put 91% in an alcohol burner. Just don't. I mean, maybe it works, I don't know, but I'll say that the denatured alcohol is the one to use in the alcohol burner. Case closed. All right. What do you want to do?
Grand prize winner.
Well,
You got one more thing?
remember, we got the advanced hand wrappers on the site now.
Yep.
4-spool, 2-spool. We've got the SSR guides up there. I was down there the other day, and we're getting shipments daily. Stock is coming in.
We have a large shipment of MHX and CRB blanks arriving tomorrow.
Okay.
Can't promise you that all backorder blanks are going to be in that shipment,
Right.
but there are a lot.
There's been a lot of trucks showing up. Yep. So that stock is coming in. We know it's been, some challenging times, but before we leave the show, we definitely want to make sure that we thank all y'all, the customers. We couldn't do all this cool stuff without y'all. And we do have fun doing this. Whether it's Taylor or Guffey in the war room, whether it's Nick or Jay on the ones and twos, Hunter and I, we have a ball doing this stuff. We are here at Mudhole because, we love it, and you guys are cool, man. We get to interact with y'all on that Facebook Live, the Rod Builders Workshop page. Again, it's almost to 10,000. Trust me, we're going to do something when it hits 10,000. So tell the world about it. So Advanced Hand Wrapper, the new colors of the SSR. We're coming with more stock, and thank you guys so much. So before we get out of here, we need to charge this credit card one more time.
All right. This is a big grand prize.
Yeah. Did we clear this one?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Hey, whatever.
I think I'm going to get in trouble for this. CRB Color Series rod kit,
Okay.
a thread kit, custom decals, and we're going to give you some feathers
Ooh,
to try on your next rod.
perfect.
That's a lot of stuff.
That is. All right. So the winner coming out of YouTube tonight is going to be Kane Corso, or it could be Kane. I had a friend, its name was Kane, was spelled like that. I don't see a little accent over it, but do what? No. So Kane Corso, coming out of
Corso.
YouTube. Yeah. Last name Corso. Very cool, very cool.
Congratulations.
So, congratulations. That is a good one. So, all right, we'll let y'all get out of here. It is just past 8 on the East Coast, and we don't know what the next show topic is, as usual, because we love running it by the group members. Yeah. So, throw some comments in there if you guys want to see something. We got back to some decorative stuff tonight. We love doing kind of the decorative stuff. This is fun. It's neat. Hopefully, we have planted a seed in your brain, touching on the creative side. So, what else? You got anything else?
I think that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. As usual.
Yep.
I'm sure we'll probably make a post for the next topic.
Yeah.
Put your suggestions in there.
Yep.
We love to hear the feedback.
Absolutely. And so we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks for Taylor and Guffey in the war room, Nick and Jay, and of course Hunter McCamey, as always, my left-hand man right here. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see y'all next time on Mudhole Live from the Penthouse.
See you next time.